Hello everyone, this is Ron from High Tech Legion. With the recent release of the GeForce GTX 770, of course, there will be also aftermarket cooling solutions that are included with some of the manufacturer versions, and they will also probably come with an overclock to provide, of course, extra performance. And the MSRP for the GTX 770 is a surprising $399. So it is interesting that the aftermarket solutions are retailing for about $10 to $20 more, such as, of course, the Gigabyte Windforce 3X GeForce GTX 770 you see here. And we've seen the GTX 670 last year when I reviewed it, but this 770 has an improved Windforce 3X cooling solution. It still has those 3 fans, but the shroud is different, and the cooling is now rated for up to 450 watts, and that is very important when it comes to GPU Boost 2.0, which is featured on the GK104 powered GTX 770 to deliver increased performance and, of course, overclocking headroom, which is important. So let's just dig in and see what we can find inside this package, and let's check out how it works. For such a powerful video card, it's surprising that the packaging is very simple for the Gigabyte GeForce GTX 770 Windforce OC video card. And a quick overview of what that Windforce 3X cooling system is like can be found in the back, and it promises a 450 watt cooling capacity. Of course, it has 3 fans and a very big aluminum fin here with the 6 heat pipes. So there's different sizes of heat pipes. I'm going to take a closer look at that later, as I have with my previous GeForce GTX 670 Windforce 3X review. I think it was almost a year ago now. So it'll be interesting to see what the changes are with the GeForce GTX 770 release. Of course, here's the video card itself, inside a anti-static packaging. Let me put that down and continue on with the accessories here at the bottom. Simple, the Gigabyte logo there. Small box containing the adapters. There's a pair of Molex connector, female, connects to a 6-pin connector for an adapter, and a secondary pair of female Molex connectors here connects to a single 8-pin connector, since that is the requirement for the GeForce GTX 770. Of course, make sure to connect both the female connectors. Don't just connect one. That won't be enough to power your card. And here is the Gigabyte graphic accelerator driver. Contains the drivers you need for Windows Vista, Windows 8 to keep your to start your GeForce GTX 770 usage. And it also contains the Gigabyte OC Guru 2, which is a useful utility for overclocking. And let me just quickly scan this packaging if there's any Gigabyte stickers or anything. Usually they stick it inside. Well, actually no, surprisingly. And you get a quick start guide. And it's multilingual, just for those beginners out there who haven't installed a video card yet. And no sticker. Well, not really not really something that is thoroughly important. But in this case, what is important is, of course, the video card itself. So I'm going to put this box away aside and take a closer look at the new Gigabyte GeForce GTX 770 Windforce 3X OC video card. And just pull it out here, show you it. Wow, this is a longer card than expected. Of course, because of the additional length here provided by the Windforce 3X cooling system. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the camera closer. Let's take a closer look. Actually, you know what? Let me just slide on down my tripod here. And then there we go. Uncut. That's me. There you go. That's should provide a good look there. The total length of this unit is about 29.2 millimeters. Of course, that is around 11.5 inches for Americans, and you can see there's definitely a extra overhang there. So if you're concerned with the clearance in your case, and that's something to keep in mind. If you notice, there are 3 fans. These look like they're 60mm fans, and the shroud itself is metal. It has the Windforce logo compared to the Windforce GTX 670 from last year that had a plastic shroud. This one is flatter and it's metal, so it's heavier. And also the side here doubles as a stiffening bracket. See there, it extends all the way to the tip. Of course, that's important because something this heavy, over time the PCB can bend and warp and it could compromise the traces, so you don't want that. So that's a very ingenious design by Gigabyte by of course incorporating a stiffening bracket here on the side. Very important. I'm actually surprised that not many video card manufacturers have, just do that for every single video card design they do. And also here, of course, the standard connector for GTX 770. You have a 6-pin and an 8-pin connector, hence the adapters earlier. You have a, let's see, the fan is actually their 4-pin PWM fan, so that's good. You have maximum control while on your desktop via the OC Guru software or other software you want to use. You have the, here at the front, get, of course, the PCIe 3.0 connector. And they're all covered, protective covering there. And of course a pair of SLI connectors also with protection for up to quad SLI. They're just a crossfire. I think it's SLI, of course, for NVIDIA, for quad SLI installation. And you get, of course, the display outputs. And here at the rear you also have some room to exhaust air. And let me just show you that it is in fact going to exhaust air all around it. In the front, well, not here, not much here in the front since the fins are flat here, but here on the sides as well. That's why there's perforations across of that stiffening bracket. And let's go back here at the rear. You get, let's see, of course, the DVI I and the DVI-D connector. You get a it seems to be a gold-plated HDMI connector that ensures you have good connection, and you have a DisplayPort connector. And of course, I'm assuming they're all shielded, as all connectors should be. So there's no interference on your display. You can see that even the gold connector there. What I'm going to do now is, before I plug this in, I'm gonna, well, actually no, I'm gonna cut in. I'm gonna do my benchmarks first, and then of course I'm going to take apart the Windforce 3X cooling system here. I'm gonna take a closer look and show you guys what is underneath, and also let's take a look at the PCB and the Ultra Durable VGA implementation that Gigabyte has done. I know they have done this before with their high-end video cards, and of course they include high-end components and to ensure a better overclocking experience. This is a quick glance here. I have my GTX 670 here from last year. It has the Windforce 3X. This is the previous generation of Windforce 3X, and you can notice the improvement there, where the changes they've made. Of course, the plastic shroud, a lot different. The fans are similar, and as per my experience, these fans are bar none the quietest fans I've ever used for a video card. So I'm looking forward to testing how the Windforce 3X performs. Alright, this is what it looks like with the coolant removed. Make sure to remove every single screw in the back before you proceed. I thought, for example, that the VRM heatsink here was separate, so I was trying to pull it up slowly. It wouldn't budge, so I had to, of course, remove all that screw in there. And I also can see that there's thermal tape cooling. Let's take a look at the PCB layout first. Of course, you see the 8-phase power design here. And I cleaned up the GPU area, and you feel close, you can definitely read that it is a GK104, and you have the memory chips surrounding it for a total of 2 gigabytes of memory. And these are Samsung memory chips, once again rated for 7010 megahertz. Plenty fast memory, and quite impressive actually. And also the solid components in there. You have the solid capacitors that Gigabyte's used, and let's take a look at the cooling solution here. Let me just move this aside, and I'm going to show you something here with the solution, other than, of course, the thermal tape here. for the VRM area. You have two separate sets of fins for aluminum where the heat pipes are distributed. Here near the core, if you notice, there are 6 heat pipes in total, but if you look even closely, there are 2 of those heat pipes are different sizes compared to the 6mm heat pipes that are here. 2 of them in the outer area, and 2 of them alternate in between the 2 thicker 8mm heat pipes that you see there. And there's one of the thicker heat pipes moved here. Actually, no, this is a 6mm heat pipe here, and there's a direct copper connector right there, and there's sort of a not a full coverage for my one heatsink, but a coverage for the memory chips in there, so because 7010 megahertz will run hot, so Gigabyte has designed so that they get adequate cooling in the form of a heatsink, and of course the active cooling solution. And also, see here, the rest of the heat pipes, 5 of the heat pipes transfer here to the other side, the opposite end, where it is cooled, of course, by the fan. And there's 3 fans in total. And if you, let me just flip that, show you, those fans are, of course, quite low profile fans. These are, again, very, very quiet, and they're designed so that minimal dust enters them. If you notice, you won't see the gap between the connector itself and the sort of the air right there in between the axis of the fan and where the fan begins and where the mounting shroud begins. So there's very little chance that dust will enter that over a long period of time, of course lengthening the lifespan of your Gigabyte Windforce video card. And that is pretty much it. What I'm going to do now is, of course, put it back together. And you can see, actually, I tested out, of course, before I started opening it up, and I tested the temperatures, and definitely very impressive. And I'm going to show you now the benchmarks I've gotten, and you're going to hear my conclusion. And let's get back to it now with the rest of the review. Alright, there you have it. As you can see in the benchmarks, that it is definitely a very, very good video card. It is right on top of the heap, beating everything else, and it doesn't even sweat, even in the high-end Far Cry 3, which is very, very demanding. Crysis 3, definitely playable, and nothing was under 40 frames per second, so for 1080p gaming, it's definitely unbeatable, considering that it also is an added factory overclock, and the fact that you could overclock it further, that is just very good. I was hoping for a 1300 megahertz core clock, but unfortunately that was possible. Very close, 1293, and it was perfectly stable. I didn't even need to increase the power trackers. It was never close to kind of needing more than that. The temperature was also kept at bay because of the Windforce cooling solution. Even under overclock load, it was like 73 degrees with 53% fan speed at most. That's far from the 79 degrees, and because I know most people, if they have the reference cooling GTX 770, they would set the power target and the temperature target to a higher number, so like an 80 degrees. But this one you don't need to compromise at all. Just simple, just slide it up, get it as far as you can without, of course, bridging artifacts and crashing. And then there you have it. I didn't even, sorry I didn't have the time to overclock the memory, wanting to test it out. But unfortunately, time constraints, the workload this week is crazy. If you just check out all the scheduled releases we have for the next following weeks, and just check out our front page, you'll see just how much workload was this week in Computex. So in terms of everything else, the Windforce face cooling solution is still the quietest I've ever heard. Very, very efficient, and especially considering now it has been beefed up to handle more heat compared to the previous generation Windforce cooling solution. And also the improved, the shroud is now metallic, and although it is heavier, Gigabyte also added a metallic spine to
prevent the PCB from bending. So that's a very good idea. Of course, over time, a heavy video card will bend your PCB. It could compromise the connection and will damage it and kill it. So that is good that Gigabyte had a foresight to do that and had the spine and also a very solid cooling solution on top of that. All the memory chips have a heatsink. It's not a full coverage block, 4-in-1 heatsink, but it covers there's a coverage for the VRM area and a coverage for the memory chips. So no problem with overclocking, very simple and very quiet. So we're just looking for a very good solution. It's only $10 more than the reference GTX 770. So definitely go out there, and I highly recommend this. And needless to say, it gets an Editor's Choice Award from High Tech Legion. And you can read the rest of the review by clicking on the link below at hightechlegion.com. Leave questions or comments, and this is Ron signing out.